Test, test, test. Where'd my clicker go? You stole my clicker. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. First off, are there any visitors or new members in the house? I know we've got at least two. And welcome two of my friends from St. Louis, Mark Braun. He's with the St. Louis Camera Club, and he is the co-chair of the on the board for the International Photography Hall of Fame, and he's an excellent photographer. He's the one that got me into photography. I was going to get to that. He's also a member of the Cleveland Photographic Society, and he has judged for us in the past, and probably is going to judge for us again in the future. With him is his friend and my friend, Christy Beckman. Christy is also from the St. Louis area, and she has been very active in the arts arena in St. Louis and has served on multiple boards, and I'm very glad they're here. Is there anybody else in the house this evening? That's it. So let's get on to the announcements. Next week, July 12th, is going to be a people competition. The deadline for submitting entries is July 3rd. Come on. Thank you. Clicker problems. The following week, July 19th, Chris Murray is going to talk about the subjective landscape, and that's going to be a Zoom presentation. July 26th, nature competition. Deadline for that will be July 17th. Get your entries in. We're going to have a couple of meetups. July 13th, Nelson Kennedy Ledges field trip. This is open to everyone, members and non-members. And then the next day, July 14th, Fairport Harbor field trip. Again, open to everyone. I think this is the one that an invitation was extended to the Akron Camera Club to join us. Dennis Wirt is going to start a mat cutting class. Introduction to mat cutting and photo mounting. He's planning on meeting the first and third Tuesdays of every month. He wants to start on the 16th. He will teach you how to cut and mat photos. Having served on the exhibition committee before, we would get a lot of questions about cropping a photo to a non-standard size. This would give you that capability. What Dennis's plan is that he's going to have all the material here, all the mounting materials, backing board, for a couple of bucks. For a single mat, all the materials $3. For a double mat, all the materials $5. This is significantly cheaper than buying something on Amazon or Michaels, and it'll teach you everything you need to know about mat cutting. If you're interested, there is a sheet on the back, two-page sheet with a little more details about mat cutting. There's supposed to be a link on the website to those two sheets. Unfortunately, I don't know how to put the link in, so until I talk to Kelly, she will help me get the link on the website. But for now, the sheets are in the back. SIG meeting, August 1st, Managing Light and Photography with David Bush. As usual, we'll have the presentation up front, and then we'll break up into groups, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, whichever camera you shoot. August 2nd, Unleash Your Creativity, a process-driven approach. This will be a Zoom presentation. Fundamentals of Good Photography. Chris, they still open for registration? still open for registration, and you can take the class at your own speed. It's all virtual, but if you sign up for the class and then later on you want to participate in the in-person classes for an additional $10, you can come into the clubhouse and participate in person. CPS positions needed. We're looking for a phone photography instructor. We will teach you whatever you need to know. And then mat cutting and photo mounting instructor. Dennis Wirt is running the program. He will teach you everything you need to know. This is primarily as a backup to Dennis in case he's not able to be available some evening. But if you're interested, check the website out. As usual, the announcements are on YouTube. You can click on the link on the CPS website, or you can go to YouTube and search for Cleve Photographic. If you go to the website, you click on the icon in the upper right corner. It will take you to the Cleveland Photographic YouTube site. Click on Live, and there will be all the presentations, and you can see past presentations and the presentation that evening. And with that, I'm going to introduce Wally Nell. He's going to be our speaker this evening. Wally is originally from South Africa, lived in Egypt for 6 years, and is now back in the United States. He has contributed to Zoomer Press and other publications and news agencies while working both in the Middle East, covering news and documentary work. He bought his first camera in '84, and by '86 he was doing sport and photojournalism for The Star, a major newspaper in South Africa. As an amateur photographer, he received a fellowship from the Photographic Society of South Africa. He moved to the United States in 1990 and settled in San Diego. And there he also received a fellowship from the Professional Photographers of San Diego. His work has appeared in Sports Illustrated, National Geographic Traveler, New York Times, London Times, The Star. I'm skipping over a bunch of magazines that he has participated in. Go to the website and you can read the full biography. He has also been invited to present lectures in institutions in the US, Mexico, South Africa, Australia, and Egypt. With that, Wally, it's all yours.
Oh, well.
Here's your clicker.
You're so kind.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yep. Well, as he told you, my name's Wally Nell. I lived in the Middle East for 6 years, and we went there with the idea that that we wanted to get away from the corporate world, and so we went there to try and make a difference in people's lives. But that's normally they who make a difference in your life. So that's my story.
Slide.
To maximize, and then slideshow, and then from the beginning.
There you go. Thank you.
All right. You need to hit these lights.
I'll give it back, thanks.
All right. Like I said, that included trips to the pyramids and everywhere. And my idea of photographing people has been to earn your way into photographing them. So you'll find that with my documentary type photography, I would often have eye contact. So that's what I went with. So we're going to be talking about these are the places that I've been. We're going to be talking about Egypt, Sudan, and Yemen. Libya was a bit hardcore, so maybe not tonight. So we lived in Cairo. Cairo is a city of about 22 million people, and it goes way past this. But we lived over there, in that building over there. And as you can see, McDonald's was right there, and we actually ordered delivery. So they just went, shoop, shoop. Shameful, but anyway. Okay, that's me. All right, so we're first going to start with Egypt. That's Cairo over there. I'm also going to show you some pictures of the Bedouins in the Western Desert, and they'd be in that area over here. Like I said, Cairo is a very busy place, and if you've never driven in a place like that, it's an experience. Very congested. Some of these pictures speak for themselves, so I'm not going to talk about everyone. This was during a sandstorm, and those towers were maybe about 20 yards further. It was just crazy. Some of the mosques, and of course the Nile. And if you wanted to go, if you wanted to get away from the craziness, you found yourself a felucca, which is these boats. You pay about £60, which is about $2, and that gives you the whole boat that can take about 20 people for 1 hour. It was pretty amazing. Yeah, these are just some of the scenes from there. And at the pyramids, the one day I had to go shoot something there early morning, and there was fog in the pyramids, whatever. But just the size of the camel against the pyramids shows how large they are. But they're truly amazing, and the people in Egypt don't have a concept of the history they have there. It's like it's just a place to trap tourists. But anyway, so with the pyramids, go shoot a graduation party at the pyramids, of course. Portraits at the pyramids, and senior portraits at the pyramids. And you can see how close. Here's the pyramids, and the city starts right over there. You'd think it's far out somewhere, but it's right close up. Oopsie. More portraits with lighting. Okay, and that's the best view of the pyramids. We've been there so many times. We'd have friends come, and we'd show them the gate where to go in. They'll, okay, when you come out, we'll be in the pizza at the exit, and that's the best view of the pyramids. Cool air conditioning, everything. When you drive around the Nile, it's actually very lush. You think it's in a desert and so on, and it's dry, but next to the Nile is just really, really lush. Kitty cat. So in Arabic, the word for a cat is auto, so I would tell them it's a cat focus camera. Autofocus. Auto. This is just some of my street photography. There was a time I would just walk around with my camera on my side and just trip the shutter as I walk, and then you see what you get. And this was one of the better ones. And the Copts in Egypt have the cultural thing where they they tattoo their kids and everything with this mark on their hand, which is the Coptic cross. And they give their babies makeup. People are incredibly friendly. When I first went, I thought it's going to be really difficult. You know, everybody told me that Muslims don't want you to take their picture because you capture their soul. And I went there, before we moved there, I went there just to go and check. And I was absolutely amazed at how open and friendly people are. Yep, playing football. Like I said, you can just walk up to a guy and lift your camera up, and you have that connection with a person, and you take the picture. Yeah, I was sitting opposite a guy that was very suspicious of me. He was smoking his shisha or hookah, and I put my camera down my tray and just click, click. Yeah, he didn't look too happy with me, but anyway. But I kind of liked how those guys appeared in the... And I saw a picture like this many years ago when I just started doing photography, of a window that's half open, and there's somebody in the open window reflection, and one day I walked and whoop, there it was. I just had to hold up my camera, and she's actually wearing red, which is like, whoa. Okay, and this is a scene from a market area in Cairo called Khan al-Khalili, and you can buy just about anything there, and it's an amazing place. Walk the streets and you can find people friendly and so on. And the interesting thing is that the Egyptian people, many of them have eyes that are not brown, they're like green or blue. Yep. My lens of choice for working like this is a 35mm lens. If I'm working news, I'd have a 16-35 on a full frame camera and a 70-200. If I'm just walking the streets or I'm doing documentary style work, I have a fixed 35mm and a fixed 100mm, two camera bodies. But at all times, I try to be unobtrusive and not in your face with a big lens and stuff like that. And I try to spend time with people so they relate to you, and there's a connection. And this is an area called Garbage City, where the people go out and collect the garbage from the streets and bring it into their homes and sort it out between stuff that can be fixed, stuff that can be recycled, and the rest of the trash. So everywhere is just trash. This was the inside of a humble building that I went into. No Photoshop, just that's how it was. Went to some of the mosques. Yeah, this is all Cairo still. Always had a fascination for people walking through tunnels and silhouetted. This is also from that area in Garbage City. You can see the bags of garbage everywhere, and it had rained or something, so there's a lot of mud here. This was in a church in that same area called the Cave Church, and they have 3 caves. In the largest cave, It takes about 10,000 people. In the smaller cave, about 3,000, and in the other small one, about 200. And this is from the bottom of the large one. I think they just cleaned the floor or something. One of the towers. And for anybody who is a Christian and know Oswald Chambers, that's his grave. One of the mosques. Some guy doing his art. You know, I found Egyptians are so interesting. You know, in the US, New Yorkers are the flamboyant speaking people of the United States. Egyptians are the flamboyant people of the Middle East. They always have something extra to say, or just, you know, quite funny. That was just shot with a 35. Oh yeah, probably about 75% of all my stuff is shot on at that length, 35. On the Nile. I admit that for this shot I blurred that in Photoshop. Shh, don't tell anybody. In Photoshop. That was sharp, and I selected the girl in the boat and then blurred the rest. Also with a 35. Just north of Cairo, there's a bunch of monasteries, and this is one of them. Then there's an area in Cairo called the City of the Dead, and it contains tombs. Each of these are tombs going back probably 11 or 1200 years, and they built the tombs in such a way that someone would live there to basically look after the tombs and clean it. But obviously after 1100 years, they've all died out. So people have moved into these tombs and now live there and make their business there, which is it's a fascinating place. You get scenes like that is just pretty nicest doors that I've seen there. I saw one door they reckon was about 200 or 300 years old, that was at least 20 feet high, just out of nowhere. This particular place I know is I think was built about 900 AD. So that's part of the City of the Dead, and in the cliffs is an old mosque, or ruins of it anyway. You see this as a beautiful mausoleum, and obviously the size of the mausoleum depended on how rich the people were and stuff like that. And there are guys in there that are just having fun. And I did not pose that. She just walked into the frame, and I took the shot. And you get scenes like that. And right in the middle of it, there's a playground, and kids are playing. So the other thing that I did was I decided that I wanted to find a few families that I would go back to and just build a relationship with them and help them because you can't help everybody. The poverty in Egypt is just abject. It's just incredible. never seen that type of poverty anywhere, including in Africa. And so the in the West, our normal values are sequenced, like first, second, third, love and fair play, and maybe relationships. That's our sequence of values. In the Arab culture, the first value is hospitality. The second value is shame and honor, and the third value is relationship. So I know that I can walk down the street and I won't walk 400 yards before someone will invite me in for tea, and they'd mean it. And it would be the greatest blessing to them if I came in and had some tea. So I used that as a way to find some families that I could go back to every now and again, and bring food and help them financially and so on. Yeah, so this was one of those families. I've always heard about the composition thing of layers, so I've been trying to shoot in layers, but not that successful. There's a story there, story there, half a story there. Oh, okay, there's another story there. Yep. And 99% of my shots are with natural light, and I find ways of dealing with harsh light by shooting either in the shadows or against the light, and you guys will see how I handle that later on. This is still in the City of the Dead. We haven't moved out yet. Yep, she came and stood there. I did not pose her there. I said, okay, I'll take the picture. So I did a small story on the people that do weaving in the City of the Dead. They spin the yarn there. And there you can see, here are some of the tombs, and there's a large mosque. Okay, and then just north of Cairo is a place called the Burkash Camel Market. It is supposedly the largest one in the Middle East, and is about 2 or 3 miles by about 2 miles. It is just wherever you look, as camels, there are traders, and just amazing scenes everywhere. Yep, there you go. They are such interesting animals. It literally sounds like that. And that's just a scene from there. And you get many different nationalities that come to the camel market. You get people from North Africa, Central Asia, and so on. Yep. It almost looks like it should be the CD cover or something. They also do, there's a few places that do Sufi dancing, and they spin around, and they wear these skirts and so on, and they work these skirts up while they spin and take them off. And this one looks like a flower. It's a Sufi dancer. And some wear lights in their dresses. All right, and then we go to the Bedouins of the Western Desert. I'm going to sit down here. And the Bedouins used to roam around with their herds, but these days they actually stay in villages, and they no longer roam around. But in my time there, I made friends with a sheikh, and I used to go back to him all the time. So there's one trip you can do between the oases. There are 3 major oases in the Western Desert, and between the oases takes about 2 to 3 days. So you do a camel trip. My self-portrait, yeah. What can I say? They're not fun to ride, let me tell you that. And this is the White Desert. It's one place where we spend time. Now, in this area, we found a place that had 3 civilizations built on top of each other. At the bottom was Roman. On the next level was, I don't remember which one it was, something else, and then on top was Bedouin. And this was one of the levels. So this is my friend Abdullah. Went to his house and many times. You know, we hear all these bad things. Let me just go back here. We hear all these bad things about Muslims and so on, and it's literally that there's 5% of them causing 95% of all the problems. The rest of them just want to get along like all of us. So that's Abdullah, and his son had a water pistol. So I thought that looked intriguing. Some of the Bedouins. I was also told that you can't shoot women wearing a veil because I have an issue with it. But I found that once you started talking with them and just made friends, you know, that they're very open to be photographed. There's a young girl, she's probably 9 or 10. Young boy. Bad hair day. So at night, Abdullah would build a fire and we'd eat there, and then you'd basically sleep around the fire, but they would also bring their musical instruments out and sing and dance, and at this time I brought some friends with, and we were all dancing around the fire. That was in a time when an ISO of 3200 was really bad. So I put my camera on the sand and I just hoped it would work. And I shot probably about 20 shots. Only 1 or 2 that worked. That's in the morning you wake up and these guys are making bread on the fire over there. And as you can see, that's where we slept, and it's making bread over there. And then you have breakfast. Pretty cool. And that's the man. That's the Black Desert, which is very harsh. And then you get these stories. Now, this was one family that I went back to visit often, and you get to know them, and in getting to know them and going back, invariably you get to hold the babies. So this family, this story is heartbreaking. The first time I went there was a media school that sent some of their students, and they asked me to help them do some local photography. So I divided them all into twos, and um, got an Egyptian to go with them and take them places. And we went with two, and that's the first time that I met these people. And we found this lady and started talking. Actually, found a guy in front, and he invited us to sit for tea. So he brought tea, and he called his mother, which is her, and she came out in hands and knees because her legs were giving her problems. And we sat there and so on, and we spent about an hour there. And then she asked me, would you like my daughter, but she's dumb, she can't talk, and she's mentally challenged. And I said, sure. And they took me inside, and my heart just broke because it was a little room, probably 10 feet by 10 feet, a dirt floor, just horrendous. And this girl was there, and she was rocking to and fro, and she couldn't stop laughing because I was coming to see her. And I broke all the rules, and I took her hand and just, I was crying. So I went back to them many times, and just before I left Egypt, I had not been for about 8 months, and I went back, and they told me that Azza, which is this girl, had fallen into a piece of wood that stuck through her throat, and she died. So I made her this picture into a frame and brought it to her, so that, this was one of those meetings where I try and bring some hope to them, but they just show me how bad I am. That's the brother. And that's the mother. And that was another family in the garbage city. You can see in the back is garbage everywhere. And this woman is blind, and she just given birth a few weeks earlier to a baby. Right, we're going to Sudan. I will probably show you pictures of 3 places. This is Khartoum over here, Darfur over there, which is pretty bad, and then basically the eastern part. So this was, was that me? I don't know. Anyway, during the Eid al-Adha, the government gave these refugee camps livestock to slaughter as a gift. So the first thing they do is and it's the in our world that would be the Day of Atonement. So to them it was important to clean the animals and stuff like that. So we arrive at the camp, and there's soldiers everywhere, and these guys are chasing off to the cattle that was given. And if you're squeamish to blood, please close your eyes to the next couple of slides. And that was the slaughter. And this specific camp had sheep, not cattle. And I wanted to show you, I was really saddled with, it's in the middle of the day, it's a news event, so I have to cover, cover people who are very dark skinned, wearing really white clothes. And so I decided to shoot against the light and expose for the shadows, so everything else goes white. And in black and white it really turns out good. same thing there. And it really just does some, yeah, you lose some of the detail there, but at least you have the face out of it. Slaughtering, and that's the meat after it's slaughtered. And that's two guys who invited me in for some food. Okay, and then I went to the in the Darfur area. I went to the clinics, and the really sad thing about Darfur was that at one point, 75% of all women and kids either experienced rape or had close people raped. And that is a conservative estimate, because if they go and report it to the authorities, if they don't bring 2 witnesses, they get charged with adultery. So that's probably not even true. So many of the women you see in here may have been raped, or at least have experienced close ones being dealt with. This is in one of the clinics. And when I went around and did portraits of people, again, I placed them against the wall with a sun coming from behind the walls, so they're in open shade. Most of the people seemed willing to be photographed, but in some of them, you could feel their pain. And no matter what I did, she would not look up and face my eyes. Just sad. And here's this woman who've obviously experienced this, and she was still, and she still has this regal feel about it. It's just amazing. And when your car stops and you jump out and you have a camera around your neck, everybody just rushes to you and is like, how do you shoot people and not get all the crowd into? So I just had to try and work it. And the funny story is that there had to have been some Westerners there before, because I would jump out and they go, okay. It's like someone said, okay, you know. And that's what they learned, okay. And some are just gorgeous. These kids were just playing around. Life in a camp. Football with a flat ball. Yep. Never mind him playing in flip-flops, he's playing barefoot. And this guy was blind, but they made themselves shops where they work and so on. At this point, I was using a friend's 17 to 35 f2.8, and unfortunately, when Canon made that lens, it was just a bad lens. You can see the fall off on the sides. Since then, I'm using a 16 to 35. You can see over here. The best tomatoes I've ever eaten in my whole life. It's like the guy says, here's one, and goes, wow! Kids will be kids. And these two are just too cute. Note the attitude with the one hand holding. I really like working in open shadow. You can see how the light just opens up the eyes. That's again with a 35. This guy had such a harsh face, but amazing. Again, there I exposed for the shadows and just let the backgrounds go light. I took some pictures of some bricklayers in Khartoum next to the Nile, and I told them to come together, and they just naturally posed like this. Oh, you guys have done this before, have you? And then I had the most special event happen to me. I was told by the agency that sent me that they will get me the phone number of someone that can take me to the rebels in Darfur. Now, the story was that Janjaweed, backed by the government, would go in and just raid villages. And there were rebels that were rebelling against the government and so on. So obviously the government would want to know where they were as well. So it was a big secret that I had this number and stuff like that. So I tried calling and so on and just never got an answer. And I mentioned it to someone at the place I was staying, and he apparently knew. So he organized it, and I went to go see this guy, and he was in this really humble reed thing that was falling over. And then I noticed that when people spoke to him, they were like bowing and deferring to him. So I asked him, what's that? I spoke to him about it. And it turned out that he would be the Sultan of the Fur people. If they had a king, he would be king, and they were all paying him respects. And I thought, well, I'll take a portrait of the guy and just spend time talking with him. So these are the different portraits I tried. As you can see, there's a dumb lens with that going soft. And he just lived humbly like this. And this was a guy with a PhD degree from Oxford in England. Amazing guy. So he set things up that I could go meet the rebels the next day. But then they had a raid and all transport was cancelled, so couldn't go. Right, that was Sudan. Now we're going to Yemen. Hopefully I'm not doing too badly on time. Okay, good. I'm going to show you some scenes of Sana and Thais over there. Some seeds from Arden in this area over here, and then we went to Hadramaut, which is a godforsaken place right in the middle of nowhere. Right. In Arden, just beautiful light. Just you get all these fishing boats like this on the bay, on the Gulf. Some people playing ball in the ocean, near the ocean. These are fishing boats. Dogs catching fish, whatever. Some guy with his kid. So the trip to Arden was for the UN to capture pictures of people that might catch HIV, so that they would be in in areas of work or play where they might be exposed. So that included fishermen and so on. So I spent some time with these guys in the water. This guy did not look happy with me, but anyway, maybe he was a hoodie. On the boat for a day. And if you think Death Valley is hot, think again. Has to beat it. Everybody playing on that pipe. On the fishing boat. And now we're in Hadramaut, and in the middle of the desert there's this palace, or this, they say it's a hotel now, just with amazing colors. Oops, I'll go back. I think I have another picture of the actual palace like that, but anyway, it's just an amazing building. This was in Arden. Found these boys playing billiards in the middle of the road. I find Yemen to be incredibly beautiful. It's a pity that there's so much strife in it. If you're a landscape photography lover, it is just incredible. On the west, it's like California. We have high mountains, and down towards the ocean, it's lush. And if you go over the mountain, it's dry desert. So in Hadramaut, I found a place called Shabam, and it's in the middle of nowhere, and it's like a half a square mile of high-rises, mud buildings. It's like weirdest place. And one thing in Yemen, if you have the money, you can find any type of weapon you want. This guy wanted to sell me this. I don't say, how am I gonna get that onto the plane? And he just laughed at me. And the men there have the habit of dyeing their beards with henna. And the women work in the fields, and it's hot. I mean, really hot. And they wear full garb. They wear gloves, and they wear these strange little hats. So that's still in Hadramaut. That's the high-rise I told you about. Okay, maybe I didn't put that picture in. Okay, we're now at Taiz. That's the city of Taiz, and that's the mountains next to it. Well, I'm now going to talk about the habit of eating kat. Kat is something, it's a bag of leaves that they buy. Everybody buys at about noon, and they take this bag and they go sit somewhere, and they just chew cut. They don't chew it. They just stuff the leaves into their cheek and just like suck on it for like 3 or 4 hours. The effect is supposed to be like having 2 or 3 espressos, but I tried it, no effect. But anyway, maybe that's because I can drink 2 coffees and go straight to bed. But anyway, so these are the fields. So what you normally do is, if you want to talk business, you buy a bag of cut, you get your friend, you can sit somewhere, you chew cut and you talk business. Some of the mountainscapes. So yeah, they're selling cut. So you see all these little bags. So everybody's bargaining for cut and stuff like that. We can get it in, if you want more, you can have it like that. And that's your little baggie of cut. I have the faintest no idea. But there you can see his bag and you see his cheek is just bulging. It's actually really funny when you walk around and you just see guys everywhere with a cheek out here. As you can see. I spent some time with this sheikh chewing cut. And these knives over here are called jambias, and when a boy comes into manhood, he gets his own jambia, and it's just a symbol of being a man. And they can use it, but it's not particularly strong or sharp. But I tried to buy one there, but the ones are made, some are made with rhino horn, so obviously those are not, very expensive, or ivory, and then some are just with cow horn, the handles. See, that one's probably made of wood. Yeah, but you can see the inlays in it. It's very pretty. This guy selling jambias over here. And the architecture in Yemen is just amazing. That's in one of the squares. Yeah, this is now in Sana'a, in the capital. You can get these rooftop restaurants, and you can just have tea there, coffee, or whatever. The interesting thing is, in Yemen, there were only 2 Western restaurants, and they were under the same roof. It was a Pizza Hut and a KFC. I found Yemen to be like, there was an innocence about it, like it may have been in the 1800s, just add cars and cell phones. But everything, the people's, how they portrayed themselves, felt that way. Yep. This road here is actually a river causeway, but it doesn't rain, so they drive in it. I went through a phase where I liked reflections, so I shot reflections. And this is gum arabica. That's what our chewing gum is made of. That's the basis of it. What can I say? This was about 2007, somewhere around there. At that time, no. No. At that time, they were, I wouldn't say they were well off, but they weren't starving like now. And I found this guy had just come home from lunch or something, and he was dirty as anything, but proud of it, I guess. I stumbled upon a guy that had a falcon. And these kids are just playing on these chain links. Yeah, again, I shot against the light to get the shadow light in the eyes. And kids will be kids. What can I say? Well, she was a bit nervous. He wasn't. And this was at a wedding. This guy had a sword. Oh, it's that same guy. Okay. Some detail. And then I went to Arden. Well, I said that before, but the next part of it is a story about Somali refugees in Yemen, and it's really sad because they can't work in Yemen. They're black, so they can't. You know, they have an issue with black and Arab and stuff like that. And for some of these women, the only way that they can make money is by prostitution. I was propositioned once, and another friend of mine staying at the hotel at about midnight. He had a knock on the door, and some lady came to his door, and he said, "Nope, rather not." Yeah, these Somalis experience really a lot of hardship. They pay a lot of money to come over by boat, and it's unspeakable things that happened to them. This girl is like about 18 or 19, and that's her mother, and she was fine when they left Somalia. When they arrived in Yemen, she was mute. And they think it must have been some type of a trauma event that happened to her. And this lady had a baby like that. She's really sad. She explained that it's hard for her because she can't leave the baby alone because the head just falls over. So, like, she gets no rest and stuff like that. And again, the way that I worked with the really dark hijabs was to shoot tight and then let the backgrounds go wherever they go. Same there. Exposing manually for the shadows. I could probably come down and cut this a bit more over there next time. And these are still Somalis. That picture's been used by a couple magazines. I love the hand there. And you can see the pain in the eyes. and she was just gorgeous. And then I shot the presidential election in Yemen. It was the first time that women could vote, and it was the first election in like I don't know, a decade or 2 decades or something. So there was a lot of celebration around it, and for the first time, veiled women were open to be photographed. So so this was one of the people who ran. His picture in the background. And yep, they came from far. This is such a soulful picture. And that was the current president who was running again. And this was the only time that I used flash, because it was a news event and I had to get detail in pictures, and I had to go for publication. So I try to use flash on these. You can see I used flash against it. This is actually one picture where the flash worked nicely on this guy. Oh, I showed that one already. And this was on voting day, and everybody was just so proud that they were voting. It was amazing to see. He was the personal bodyguard to the president, and this is a strap of a gun over here. So there were a bunch of us Westerners there covering it, so we had this competition with all these eyes, showing who can stack the most eyes in one picture. So the competition was on. So this old lady was just too pleased that she could vote. Yep. 2 sets of eyes. I won with 3 sets of eyes. Yay! You know, you'd think that they're conservative and stuff like that, but they, you know. This guy was 110 years old on the day that he voted. And this lady had to lift her veil while these people helped her vote. So I stuck a picture under the veil. A fingerprint to show that they voted. And that was El Presidente voting. And then 3 of us, it was late after the election, we went to a restaurant, and the only place we could find was a fish place. And we had bread like this, and I kid you not, each of us got a whole fish roasted, probably about 18 inches. That's the best fish that I had in a long time. And that's me. So do you guys have any questions?
You said agency, an agency sanctuary. You're working for an agency.
Yeah.
Was the agency in like a news or documentary agency? Or
It was news. I did some work for a few agencies. EPA, the European Press Agency. I also did work for Reuters, Zuma, and 1 or 2 others.
so they arranged your trip and
Yeah.
your hotel.
Yes. Not all the places, but yeah.
I'd ask a favor, any other questions, let me bring the mic to you so we can capture for home.
Wally, did you speak any of the languages there?
Yeah, I speak Arabic. Well, half and half. Nos and nos. The first about a year and a half in Egypt was just language learning and stuff like that. And I found the language to be so interesting. For example, Egypt being the flamboyant nation that it is, they would always try to be more weird than the person before them. So you'd say, Sabah al khair, good morning. And then the guy would say, Sabah al nur, like you have nice light in your morning. The next guy will say, Sabah al ishta, may you have a creamy morning. And so it just goes up. And the one time I walked along and the guy looked at me and he goes, Sabah al cupcake. So I just backed up laughing.
How did you deal or make out with the sand with your equipment?
I made sure that I had cameras that are top of the line, that are well sealed, and then I just never changed lenses. I have 2 cameras, one for each lens, and if it was very sandy, I would have it under my jacket or in the bag. But apart from that, I just walk around.
You mentioned a couple times the lenses you used in that. Did I catch it right that you were shooting with Canon
Yes.
equipment?
Yeah.
Was it all digital, or were you shooting film at one point, or?
No. I went there in 2005 and we left in 2011. So I had a 1DS Mark II and I had a 1D Mark II. So one full frame and one crop.
And you were processing all these at home, or at your hotel that night and passing them on?
Yeah. If I was shooting for a news agency, I would do it that night and upload. And obviously that was the issue. Like in Sudan, internet was very scarce. So I had to go to the UN and steal one of their
Thank you.
phone lines or something.
Could you clarify a little bit? This was for editorial purposes that you were shooting, and a lot of us are always concerned about model releases. Obviously, a lot of your subjects wouldn't be providing model releases, but were there any times when you had a problem with that you didn't have a model release if they demanded one?
No, for editorial, you don't need model releases, but when I shot for the UN, that they required that I find the models the people that I shot and had them sign the release. I visited many people in HIV hospitals and stuff like that, and they all had to sign. But for most of it, no releases. Yeah, that's a good point, though.
So you had a full frame and a crop sensor, and which lens did you have on which?
I have the wide angle on the full frame and the longer lens on the crop.
You talked about how friendly and hospitable the people in
Yeah.
Egypt were especially. Was that true of all the countries you visited, or was that particularly characteristic of Egypt?
You know, I found in Yemen there were some people that had a barrier, but once you start talking with them, it's okay. In Sudan, the people you were nervous about were the police, because they would lock you up for no reason. So those you kind of, but the other people around are fantastic. When I was in Egypt, and it was the same thing there, the police you don't just stay away from. There was a something that happened, and there was a mountain that's collapsed and fell on top of a bunch of homes, killed about 200 people. And so we obviously went there to go and cover that. And because it's a shame and honor culture, it is shameful for the West to know about that these things happen. So the police was trying to shoo me away, and I would show them I have a credentials. No, you can't. Mum, do it. Not allowed. And at one point, I had a policeman on my arm over here, and I had the people on that arm, and they were both pulling, because people wanted the world to know, and the police didn't. So I just gently nudged towards the people. But yeah, generally, if you just spend time, they're great people. I mean, the one time I got into a taxi, and he goes, "Where are you from?" I go, "America." He said, "I don't like Bush. So I don't like Mubarak." And then we became best of friends. So.
When you talked about, getting to know people before you take their photos and stuff, do you have a particular method, or do you involve your camera in getting to know them, or do you just strike up a random conversation?
I don't know. You just play it by ear. It really helped that I could speak some Arabic, so I would just say, "Sabah here," and then, "Oh, he speak Arabic," and they start smiling, and then they offer you tea. Say, "Okay," and then, "Oh, you left tea with us, okay," and then, very often it's initiated by them, and then you just go with the flow. Basically, it's very easy once you start doing it.
And did you do anything special to learn the culture, or was it just immersion?
That was part of the language, because part of the language is the culture. Like if you learn the language, if you say anything in the future, you always say inshallah, because that's the culture, and so on. So the culture is just part of it. Like the different value system and so on is totally cultural. Like for us, we'd go to KFC, and there's just 20 people with their hands in there with the money and so on. And you go, "How was your first?" Like, "Oh yeah, you were. Okay, you go." Because in their value system, sequence is far back. So it's not like us, where if you first, you first, it counts.
What were they curious about? What were the common questions they'd ask you?
I think they're more curious about women, the men towards women, because on their TV and so on, women are portrayed as slutty and stuff like that. So if you just show your midriff, it's come on. They're very interested in learning about that, most of them. I have no idea. Yeah.
You mentioned the culture. What about pop culture? I know it was 2007, so Taylor Swift wasn't around and so on and so forth. But did you see like music or other things
Oh,
from
yeah.
U.S. rock and roll, etc.?
They were a very live Arab music culture. I had to shoot some of their tapings and stuff like that. But they do have English music as well. As a matter of fact, if you go on the radio, there are Arabic stations, and then there are American stations as well.
Any other questions? I'm getting a workout.
Thank you. How were your living conditions in these countries compared to the way the normal population lives compared to the
Yeah.
way we live here?
Ours was quite phenomenal. If you rent an apartment there, it is rare that it's smaller than 1,800 square feet. We had an apartment, there were 2 floors, 2 bedroom, with 2 living rooms. The one living room I made into a studio. It was the size of a studio, and that was very nice. I think we lived much better than maybe about 90% of the population. I've been to some of the places where people live in absolute hovels. I mean, yeah, heartrending. But yeah, and then I have a friend who was the second in charge of the second largest oil company in the world, and he had a 10,000 square foot apartment. Hi, Dave. I think he had more Canon cameras than B&H does.
Thank you.
Sorry.
One last question. What do the initials stand for after your name?
Those, I have a fellowship from the Photographic Society of South Africa, and also a fellowship with professional photographers of San Diego County. San Diego County. Yeah. By my accent, you may think I'm from New Jersey, but
I guess I have 2 quick questions. One, being from South Africa originally, did that help in terms of building relationships? And the second question I have is, at times you say we, and at times you say I. So were you working with reporters or other photographers or whatever when you were doing the we thing?
well, maybe I say we because my whole family was there, and I also worked with some other photographers as well. Being from South Africa, in some ways it helped because of if I see that they don't like America, I'd say, no, I'm from South Africa, and I'm in Ganoop, Afrika. And then they go, but you're right. Duh. When I went to Libya, it was actually a bad thing. You have to be from South Africa. So I said, no, I'm American.
Would you talk a little bit about your fellowships and how it maybe shaped your style of photography?
Well, the fellowships are basically camera club photography, and I got those, but it made me want to not have them because it's camera club photography is very narrow in its view. As a matter of fact, I think that if people like Ernest Haas and maybe even Ansel Adams put some of their pictures up, maybe they'll get lower scores by our standards, you know. So I went to an exhibition by a guy that became my mentor in South Africa, and all I could see was faults in his pictures. And then someone said, but the fact that there's faults in them make them human. And I thought, wow. I mean, totally. So for, to get the associateships and the fellowships, your pictures have to be camera club perfect. And there's a place for that, but I think yeah.
Anybody else? Wally, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
against camera judging.
It's not slamming.
Not slamming, but
it's just-
evaluation.
Yeah.
Where do you get your most satisfaction? Selling pictures to magazines? Just for yourself?
Well, I think the artist likes to see the pictures published.